We're going to be looking at rotation, talents, Pre-Bis Gear, Consumables, Enchants, and absolutely everything you need to know to build the perfect Priest in Classic. This is especially for the 2024 Anniversary Realm Special. This is going to be for people that want to min-max, people that have a ton of gold, people that don't have much gold, so there really is going to be something for everything here. I've taken it all into account. Let's start off with the talent build as a Shadow Priest. This is for level 60 at Phase 1 for Molten Core and Onyxia. Do subscribe, as I will be doing every phase for the Anniversary Realms. So we are a Shadow Priest. However, the first thing I really want you to go into is going to be Wand Specialization. Now, this is ideally a level 60 guide, but maybe you are watching while leveling. Wanding is going to be really, really powerful when you run out of mana. If you're new to Classic, as a caster that can have a wand, we often are just wanding away, which is kind of like auto-attacking with your wand. So the Wand Specialization is going to be really, really powerful there. Then what I would go into is 5 out of 5 into Spirit Tap, giving you a complete 100% chance to gain 100% bonus to your Spirit after killing a target. For that duration, your mana will regenerate at 50% of the rate while casting as well, meaning that it gets us a lot of our mana regen. Then we're going to go down into Shadow Word Pain, increasing the duration of it, 5 out of 5 into Shadow Focus, reducing the target's chance to resist our shadow spells. What this basically means is that, like we obviously sometimes miss, they sometimes miss, it's reducing the chance that that will happen to them when we attack. Let's also put 3 out of 3 into Shadow Affinity, reducing the threat generated. Specifically, Mind Blast here, which we're going to put 4 points into, is a really high threat spell, and that's going to really help with that. We're going to put 1 out of 1 into Mind Flay, where we can assault the target's mind, causing damage over a few seconds and slowing their movement speed. 3 out of 3 into Shadow Reach, increasing the range of our shadow damage spells. And 5 out of 5 into Shadow Weaving. This is, I would say, probably the second or even most important talent we have. Your damage spells have a chance, which is 100%, to cause the target to be vulnerable to shadow damage. The vulnerability increases the shadow damage dealt to your target by 3%, and it can stack up to 5 times, meaning up to 15% more shadow damage. It's not just from you, it will also help your shadow warlocks. That's right, it is going to affect everyone. So if you've got a lot of warlocks in the raid, or even other shadow priests, etc., shadow weaving is massively going to benefit the raid as a whole, and not just yourself. We're then going to put 1 point into Vampiric Embrace. It means that all party members will be healed for 20% of any shadow damage we deal. 5 out of 5 into Darkness, really simply increasing shadow damage. And then, of course, Shadow Form, where we can increase our shadow damage by 15%, reducing physical damage done to us by 15% as well. However, you may not cast any holy spells, which isn't really something we're going to be doing anyway when doing Shadow. As you can see, we have 11 points to go. I'm going to put 2 out of 2 into improved power word Fortitude, meaning we're going to get more stamina from that. 5 points into Silent Resolve, reducing the threat generated by our spells by a further 20%. And then we're going to put 1 into Inner Focus and our last 3 into Meditation. If you aren't having an issue with threat, you could take 1 point out of Silent Resolve and then put it into Mental Agility, reducing the mana cost of your instant cast spells, like your Shadow Word Pain here. But that is completely up to you. We can't take any more points out because we need it to get further down into the tree, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would. Inner Focus here, when activated on a 3-minute cooldown, it reduces the mana cost of your next spell completely and increases its critical effect chance by 25%. What would you use this on? It's going to be your Mind Blast. And Meditation allows 15% of mana regen to continue while casting, just a bit more throughput there on mana regen. And that pretty much is going to be the talent build that we are going for as a Shadow Priest. Before we move on, let's briefly touch on the rotation. It's going to be very, very simple. Keep up your Shadow Word Pain at all times, and use your Mind Blast as much as possible. Like I said, use your Inner Focus cooldown with your Mind Blast as well. Filling in the gaps between your other casts, if you do have a lot of mana, you can use your Mind Flay. And if you are out of mana, you can just shoot with your wand. We are passively going to be keeping up our Shadow Weaving at all times. That's going to be happening throughout the rotation anyway, so you don't really have to be worrying about it, but it is something to be aware of that we are trying to keep up at full stacks at all times. If you are undead, you will have another spell that looks like this called a Devouring Plague. Depending on what race you have, you will have different abilities. You're probably already aware of them if you're playing at level 60. But you can use that if you are undead. Undead are the only ones that get Devouring Plagues. If you are seeing that and not sure what it is that, which can heal you as well. And of course, Vampiric Embrace gives us some utility healing for the raid as a caster DPS as well there. For WoW's Anniversary Classic servers, I'm partnering up with Zygor Guides to bring you the fastest leveling experience you can get. Whether you're farming, questing, or gearing up in WoW Classic, we all know it can be a massive grind, but it doesn't actually have to be. With Zygor, whether you're exploring new areas, doing dungeons, leveling, or just farming mobs, they have got you covered for the fastest ways possible, making your life also as easy as possible in WoW Classic. Zygor can overlay maps for zones you haven't even discovered yet, adding waypoints and routes so that you know how to get around the map even easier. It could also help with gearing, whether it's which quest reward to pick, or if an item in your inventory is actually an upgrade or not. Zygor can also alleviate the stress of weighing out stats and options at every single step. And the same can also be said for talents. It can actually guide you in picking your talents at every single level, so that you can work smarter and not harder. Some of my favourite features, for example, are when farming mobs and doing quests, it can actually show you different locations, so that if a specific zone is full of bots or other players, you don't have to worry. You can go somewhere else. You could also skip parts you don't want to do, coming back and into the guides at ease for the fastest leveling experience. Use my code in the description with the link Javier for 20% off. Now moving on to the gear, we're going to start with Pre-Bis. And what I want to say is if you do want to get my gear setups, my talent builds, and all of that, I can actually offer these to you on my Patreon. There's a link in the description for that. On there, I share all of my builds, including I've used a point system here to build the gear, and I've got lists. So the point system I've put together basically shows you a point system of you know what gear and where to get it, etc. Based on what I have put together for my personal biz list tier list. So you can get all of those and some spreadsheets and macros, etc. on the Patreon if you would like it. So starting off on the headpiece, we're going Blackrock Spire upper for General Drakasaf. Tailors are going to be really, really good, of course, if you are a priest here. I'm going to be going through these quite quickly, just showing you kind of where to get these and which ones are best. And you can see on here, these are the enchants that you want. So Arcanum and Focus on the head. You could put +4 stats on your chest. I forgot to add that one. Spell damage you can put onto your weapon. And you can put spell damage onto your legs as well. For the neck, we've got Scolomonts with Vectus. You can also get a Stratholm with Cannon Master Wily. He actually drops a lot of really good loot. If you are rich, of course, there is some good BOEs that you can get as well here. Oh, I'm so sorry. Fellcloth Shoulders on the shoulders. Simply increasing damage done by shadow spells and effects. That's from tailoring. They are the best. If you can't get those, there is the Scholomont Zone Drop Burial Shawl. However, it's quite a low drop rate. So for the average Joe, if that's you watching, what I would suggest is just to farm Blackrock Depths for High Interrogator Gerstun. On the cloak, it's the Spirit Caster Cape from Houndmaster Grebmar in Blackrock Depths. On the chest, it's the Robe of Winter Night. There's actually a lot from tailoring. Here, there's a lot. The Fellcloth robe is actually really good on its own as well, with massive increases to shadow spells and effects. Again, if not, then it's Emperor Dagran Farisian in Blackrock Depths for the robe of the Royal Crown. On the wrists, Shadow Weaver tailoring, shadowy braces. You can even get the Arena wrist guards. These are actually biz for a lot of people, but you obviously do have to do the Arena in Stranglethorn Vale for this. If not, the Love Potion quest in Blackrock Depths is probably going to be the easiest one that you can get here for the Manacle Cuffs with 15 intellect. If you're going one hand, when I put my point system together, it has come out that main hand and offhand are actually the best in slot here, with Stratholm, Undead, Baron, Rivendare with a 15%, and in the offhand, the Spirit of Aquamentus from It's Dangerous to Go Alone in Unguro Crater. That quest here, giving some magic spell effects up to 20 by damage and shadow effects on the main hand. If you do want to go two-hand, the Staff of Jordan, which is incredibly expensive, is going to be the best. Or you could do the Witch Doctor Zumra in Zul'Farrak, is actually going to be Biz. And it's quite easy farmable as a priest down at like level 50 or whatever it is. So a few options there. Again, Fellcloth Gloves on the gloves. Or if you want to farm dungeons, Blackrock Spire lower, Quartermaster Zygris. The Banfox Sash from Blackrock Depths on Ock4 the Breaker is going to be on the belt. And this actually does give you a bit of chance to hit as well, which is really, really nice, especially in these early phases. Flame Core leggings, Flare Core leggings on the legs. I think the recipe does drop in Molten Core, but of course for you to get it before you go to Molten Core, you just have to walk to the auction house. Again, if not, it's going to be Blackrock Spire lower with High Lord Omok. Malachai's Foot Wraps from Malachi the Pallid in Stratholm for the booties. You can also go to Blackrock Spire and BRD. There's actually quite a lot of ones. Shadow Eve Boots, for example, BOEs. They're probably not that expensive. And therefore, you could get these nearly pre-biz pretty easily. The Eye of Orgrimmar, which is from the Princess Saved quest. That is Horde only. Is a really, really good ring. Maiden Circle is a world drop. Again, really good, of course, but very expensive. If you are just going dungeons, it's going to be Scholomance for Darkmaster Gandling and Ock4 the Breaker from Blackrock Depths. Going to trinkets, it's the Briarwood Reed from Red June Watcher in Blackrock Spire Upper. And the Burst of Knowledge from Ambassador for Flame Rash in Blackrock Depths as well. For the wand, it's going to be Skull's Ghastly Torch in Stratholm from Skull here. One thing I want to show you really quickly is actually in WoW, Atlas Loot. If you don't know about this add-on, it's really, really good, especially for farming dungeons. You can just go into here and say, where am I going? I'm going to say Lower Blackrock Spire, and you can just click through the bosses and see what they drop. The little rare ones, do be aware of that, though. These ones here are rares. But I use this for looking at what dungeons I want to go to next and what loot they drop from. That's Atlas Loot on Curseforge for that one. And that is the pre-biz. Moving on to the actual biz gear, a lot of it isn't changing. The head is the same, the robe is the same, boots, hands, etc., trinkets and wands, they are all the same. We are now moving up to the choker of the Fire Lord, which is from Raggy Daddy himself in Molten Core. Saffron Drape is from Onyxia on the back. It is Onyxia, right? Yes, that is from Onyxia. Shadowy Braces, That's the same. Anathema is now the absolute best for Benediction, which is from the Balance of Light and Shadow Priest quest, of course, which you may already be aware of. The Sash of Whispered Secrets from Majordomo Exarchus in Molten Core is going to be your best bet on the waist. Legs are the same. Again, Ring of Spell Power is going to be the best on both rings, which is from Gelhannes, Lucifron, Shazar, and Sulfuran's Harbinger in, again, Molten Core for the rings. And that's actually the only changes we are making for the biz gear. Now let's have a look at things like enchants and consumables and world buffs and how to get them. So starting off with world buffs, we have the Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer. This is whenever somebody hands in Onyxia's head to the capital city, increasing critical strike chance, melee and ranged, and 140 attack power for 2 whole hours. We then have Resist Fire, and as a priest, this is very interesting. So you can actually cast Mind Control on a Scar Shield Spellbinder in Upper Blackrock Spire. Okay, so that's the Scar Shield Spellbinders. Once those mobs are affected by the Mind Control effect, what you could do as a priest is then apply the Resist Fire buff to all of your friendly targets that are in the group with you, and it will last for an entire hour. In Molten Core, of course, fire resistance is really, really useful. Whether you can be bothered to go this extra mile or not is up to you, but I just want to let you know it is there. Warchief's Blessing, only available to Horde. So this one is actually given when somebody hands in Rend Blackhand's head in Upper Blackrock Spire to Thrall. Whenever they hand in that, that will actually drop in Orgrimmar. It happens very often. So you could just stand around in Orgrimmar AFKing, you know, when you're on the toilet or something, and it's actually quite likely that you will get this one. Songflower Serenade, another bit of a tedious one in Felwood. To do this one, you need to do a quest in Felwood, and then you start getting repeatable quests, which will give you a Cenarian Plant Salve. And when you use the Cenarian Plant Salve on the Corrupted Songflowers, I'm trying to remember now, they will basically give you this buff for an hour. So you do have to do a quest in Felwood. I can't actually remember the name of the quest. It's really annoying me. I'm so sorry. But once you do that quest in Felwood, you will then be able to do a repeatable quest. Again, it gives you Cenarian Plant Salve. So if you just put into Wowhead Cenarian Plant Salve, or this buff, you should be able to get the instructions. But yeah, so you can then do that, use it on the Corrupted Songflowers, and they're basically like, oh, thanks, you know, and they give you this buff in return. And what's the fourth one? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we've been through all 4. Scrolls, you can get Scroll of Intellect and Scroll of Spirit, of course, on the auction house. Pretty cheap. Not so cheap is going to be the Flask of Supreme Power, giving you 150 magical spell damage for 2 hours, but it does persist through death. For your food, it's the Run Ton Tuber Surprise, giving you 10 intellect. There is a mana oil. It's actually, I think it's the better one than this. I think it gives you 8 mana every 5 seconds, but I couldn't find it on this list, annoyingly. So look for mana oil. And then elixirs, you've got the Cerebral Cortex compound, increasing intellect by 25. And then Juju Embers as well, which increase fire resistance for 10 minutes. These are kind of, you know, a bit extra. But again, if you're trying to min-max and things like that, these are the ones I would recommend. And that is pretty much it, guys, for playing a Shadow Priest in Phase 1 of WoW Classic, especially for the Anniversary Realms. I hope it was helpful. Again, if you want to get all of these builds, etc., with the lists and all my point systems, you can get those on my Patreon, as well as LVUI profiles and macros and things like that. And of course, it just really, really helps support the channel. We also give guidance in Discord as well, should you need it. And if you would like Zygor, again, don't forget there's 20% off with my code Javier down in the description. There's a link for that. And I am doing all classes, so check out the channel and don't forget to subscribe.